let's get into the date of the week because I haven't talked about it in a while. I haven't had an episode in a while. The USB is loose on my Yeti microphone, and I don't want to have shoddy sound quality, and I need to take it in to get fixed. So, my date of the week was a bolero dance class. What is bolero? It was described to me as if the waltz and the rumba had a baby. I do not know what the rumba is. I do know what the waltz is because I know how to waltz with my dad. I mean, ever since I don't know, I was a kid. It's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's like what you see in old movies. It's actually really easy. Um, and it's down the street from me at Fred Astaire. And yes, I have taken many kinds of dance classes as an adult, but those were all individual. So maybe you learn some choreography that builds upon itself, or maybe you just go to like a drop-in class. But it's all partner. All these dances are partner based. And what I like about this is you don't need a partner. So they usually have a teacher or something. They have the lead and the follow, which is usually the female. So I thought, I'm going to try this out. This is so close and I'm interested in, and why don't I just do it? Okay, a couple of reasons that I was hesitant to do so. I was talking to my younger sister the other day, and we've both lived in new cities for about a year and a half. And like I said, she's in her 20s, she's much younger than me, but now she's doing like co-ed soccer team and run club. And now she's got this group of friends. And then they go to trivia night and they go to like a club. And I'm just really happy to hear that because she works a lot and this is good outlet for her. And then I just kind of laughed and I was like, when I was in my 20s and I lived in Hermosa Beach, California, I did the same thing. My best friend and I were in a co-ed flag football league, and it was the best. Playing football in the sand at night and then going to the bar after when you really have like your responsibility. I mean, your adulting is going to your job and then splitting rent with your roommate. Like that was just so fun and doing those kind of group things. And I'm like, now, yeah, I could do something maybe like that, but you actually need to know more people. Like when I first moved here, I wanted to do a co-ed softball team. And I asked a couple of my neighbors, the people that I knew, and they were like, we're horrible at softball. And actually my next door neighbor, he was already in a league and it was full. So you couldn't even start a team unless you had people. You could be on like an alternate list, and even that was like waitlisted. So I was like, God, I guess you need to have friends to do things. So I said to my sister, I go, the things I like to do are things that like a 70-year-old plus woman would like to do. So I'm not trying to do things to like find a man, but even I don't even know if I would find like peers doing the things that I mean, besides tennis, finding peers doing the things that I like to do, or maybe I'm just destined to hang with people that are like my aunt's age. I don't know. I mean, I talk about like like water aerobics, or yeah, I'll swim laps, but I don't want to be in a master's program because I don't want to train that hard. And what's that demographic? Older women. What else? I'm not really succinctly giving you examples, but there was a couple things that I rambled off to her, and I was like, who also likes those things? Older women. So yeah, I guess just put me in that category. So I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm gonna try this out. The other catalyst to me signing up for this, even though I love dance, but really what the push was, have you heard of a domino goal? Domino, like playing dominoes. You tap one, they all fall down. I was recently made aware of this term, and you can use, which is what I did, Chat GPT to help you with this. So basically, like you look at areas of your life that you want to focus on. You normally want to focus on them because you want it to be better in that area. And so, like if you were to draw a pie chart, and I'm taking this from, have you heard of Manifestation Babe? She did a short, like 5-day course on this. And I like her content. So I participated in it. And it was, draw a wheel and put these different categories of your life. None of this is new, right? And it was your finances, your love life, your health, your spirituality, your social life, your career. I don't remember all of them, but and then you would like rate them 0 to 10, something like that. And so this was just a way to kind of get clear because sometimes when you're like goals, it's like, what? I don't just trying to get by in life, like I have small kids here, and I think a lot of women who have kids my age, it's not that we're like struggling, but it's like you're deep in motherhood. That is the priority. So to look at like what goals are in your life, if they're not related to, say, a career or your kids, I think a lot of us don't take the time to think about that, especially if it's just on us. Like if you have a boss at work, there's accountability to that, right? If you have a quota you have to meet or something like that. But if it's just you on your own time being like, what is it that I want to improve in my life? And no one's really going to hold me accountable for it, just myself, especially me, because I don't have a spouse. So it's really like, I'm just going to hold myself accountable for this, or tell a friend and hope that they check in with me on it. So when I rated these different areas of my life, one of them was fun. I know, it feels like, Lena, you've been talking about this. Well, there's a lot of life ahead, so I guess it's fine if I'm still working on this. So the next step was to brain dump. And I actually, if I can remember correctly, her prompt was to write out, like, if you were adding to an Amazon cart, like all the things, like I want this and this and this, and just like putting it in a cart. Or if that, I mean, I think everybody understands that visual, but you can also look at it as just like a brain dump of possible things that you want or things that could be in that category, right? So for fun, I'm like, all right, what are all the things? I could take this trip, I could go to this international place, I could blah, blah, blah. Writing just anything that could come to my mind that would create more fun in my life. And then you take all those things. So again, if this is health, you would write all the different things that you think would help you to get to that health goal that you have. And then you take those items, that list, and you ask Chat GPT, here's what I would like to achieve, right? So like, let's just say more fun in 2025. I know, I feel like I'm a fourth grader. Um, and then you say, what is the domino goal? And the domino goal means if that one thing happened, it would have the biggest impact in all the other areas, like in achieving that, right? So think of like you tap the one domino and everything else falls. Her example was something along the lines of, say you want to find your soulmate or the love of your life, and it says, what are the add to cart options that you could just brain dump? And it was like, get new clothes, start working out more, go on dating apps, hire a relationship coach. There's a couple other things like that. And so then it was like, what would be the domino goal for that? And the domino goal in this example was to hire a relationship coach. And then other things can fall in line, right? Like going on the dating app that feels most aligned for you, or like getting new clothes. So basically saying all these things can totally be a positive action to take, but is getting new clothes going to be this domino that makes the biggest impact on meeting somebody that you feel really aligned with? Like, probably not. I mean, it's totally going to help though, right? Or like getting a haircut. It's like these are all great, but that's not the domino goal, right? The domino goal is to get the coach and all these other things. So I hope that gives you a better visualization. I mean, that makes sense, right? So when I asked ChatGPT of all the things on my list, taking a trip, doing this and that, it was like the dance class is the domino goal because you can meet more people and it's something you enjoy that you do routinely and all these other things. And I'm like, all right, so we are doing it. Also, the thing that I like about this, given my current parenting schedule is that unless I get a sitter, which I don't want to do because I don't see my kids every day. So on the days that they're with me, I want to be here. I don't make plans to go out when they're with me on the weekends or weekdays. Like if there's something that can't be changed, but that's a rarity, I want to be with them. So committing to a weekly anything fun for just me is not an option right now. And with this, you can drop in and you can take a private class if you miss something. It just feels like more flexible as opposed to other activities that I wanted to do that I couldn't. So I walk in and I fill out the card, the new dancer card, and this woman behind the counter, she looks at it and she says, "Oh, Miss Piskorowski." And I just laughed and she said, "This is a Polish name." And I said, "And you read it like a Polish person." And she just kind of laughed. And if you're not Polish, a W is pronounced like a V. So while I introduce myself as Piskorowski, if somebody Polish is speaking to me, they will say Piskorowski. And nobody says that really unless they're in a Polish speaking community. And so then she started asking me, she said, who's Polish? And I explained to her my dad's side of the family. And then we just got to talking. She told me that she's the owner of the studio and she's been competitively dancing for 30 years. And I mean, it's a beautiful studio, it's huge. And this is something that I learned years ago. This culture of ballroom dance and these socials that they have, I don't know if it's every Saturday and then they do something else once a month. It's just across the country. This culture. And I always thought how interesting that people show up to just dance. And I started to tell her, which I totally have to tell my daughter this. She said that one of the competitive dancers, he has a daughter who's the same age as my daughter, whose name is also Aniela. And I was like, oh, she's going to love that because nobody can say her name. But again, it's like there's like a shoulders drop softness in just being around someone who can say your name or who understands a little bit of where you're coming from. And when you don't have that, you can kind of build up almost like a callus to it, just like, okay, like my whole life, nobody could ever say my last name. And as a kid, that's just like, ugh, it's hard to go through that. And then when I was around, my dad's side of the family and my grandmother's friends and all of his patients and everyone that spoke Polish, that's fine. But no one else really understood. And so the fact that there's someone else who has the same name as my daughter, as you know, is named after my grandmother, I was like, oh, I gotta tell her that. That would be so fun. Doesn't mean I have to be best friends with these people or even that I will like them just because they can pronounce my name. And she was describing to me, she had all these chairs lined up with black covers on them, and she said, "Oh, I don't know what it's called, the gala, the winter performance is happening on Saturday, and it's a party, and the teachers will dance, and they have these things called, I think it's called beginner parties." Which is great because if you're new, right, you don't want to be in with like all the pros and be like stepping on people's feet. The beginner parties, how she described it to me is they will do all of the dances that they teach during these whatever couple hours party and they'll have food and all this. So I am planning on going to one of them. I mean, again, I have one class under my belt, but at the party she says they'll announce like, okay, the bolero, the bachata, the salsa, whatever, and then everybody just goes out on the floor and dances, and who knows, maybe I'll record an episode about that if there's an interest. Or if there's not an interest, but I feel like sharing it. But I started telling her how, because we got talking about my daughter's name. And I said, this is just at first glance, I haven't experienced these parties yet. I was like, this is beautiful to see that this culture of ballroom dance has not died. I mean, it's 2025. And this is an enormous, beautiful studio. And I mean, there's going to be 90 people dancing at this thing on Saturday. I find that to be I find that to be special. And I told her, I said, my grandmother, who was a dressmaker, and she, when she came to the United States, and she's, they started their life in Hamtramck, and then they moved to Detroit, and she would always tell me how they go to these dances. Like everyone would get really dressed up, and they would, it wasn't like a wedding. It was just they would go to these different hotels, and that's what the social life was, right? It was just dancing as adults with your husband and all your friends. I mean, I think they even did that in like their basements and stuff. It's just like everybody like wore a suit and dress and just danced. And I didn't expect her to really, have a pulse on what was going on the social scene when I was in college. But I may have shared this story once before, but one time I was visiting from college and she showed me this hunter green fabric and it was beautiful. It was like a grape blend. And she said, this fabric is beautiful. She's like, draw me something. Let's do something for a dress. This would be great for a St. Patrick's Day dance. And I'm like, what is she talking about? And I was like, yeah, this is really nice fabric. And so I remember I drew something and we did end up making a dress. And I have more or less all the things she's made me, which is a lot. But I didn't have the heart to tell her, like, Bachi, I'm just gonna go to, Rick's, Michigan State, and all my friends will be drinking beer. It was almost like, man, she's holding me in a much higher regard, where she thinks life is a lot more fancy than it actually is. Because in her 20s, that's what she was doing. So maybe I can start doing that, which is participating in dance parties. Also, when I said that all these things that I like doing are for women in their 70s, I'm also thinking if I like doing it, then I should just do it, right? But I am being a little bit judgy on the demographic. Are these just going to be a bunch of like old guys that are single? I don't know. I mean, I have no idea, but this is just where my mind is going. I don't really want to meet people like that, but it's like, why wouldn't I want to hang out with people who know how to dance? It's a rarity to find a man that knows how to dance, especially these kind of dances. So maybe that is the kind of people I want to be around. It would be different for me, and maybe that's why I'm judging it. So, to be continued, but it was a good first step of the domino goal. Okay, it's time for a quote. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And this is by Stephen Covey. I found it appropriate when you're thinking about your domino goal. Thanks for listening. I appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. And remember to trust in joy, whatever it is that brings you joy. Go ahead and do it today.